Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is our Simple Abundance year. My name is Carolyn and you're joining me for our journey through Sarah Ban Beathnach's book Simple Abundance all year, talking about her principles: joy, harmony, beauty, order, simplicity, and gratitude. And I'm deviating from the book today just to talk to you guys about, well, it's kind of in the book, but to talk to you about what happens tomorrow, September 20th. So Sarah told us in her September Joyful Simplicities to take a walk under the Huntress moon, right? So I looked up when that is, and it starts tomorrow, September 20th. So I wanted to make sure you saw this either today or tomorrow so that you could be thinking about walking. Now you have a month for this moon, so you don't have to do it right on the 20th, but it is about to be also the fall equinox, right? Now I talked to you guys about the spring equinox, and I went through a bunch of rituals and things that were eventually adopted into Christianity and our modern times as far as celebrating Easter. And we don't really have a typical fall celebration, although earlier this month we did talk about how in the Jewish tradition it's their new year, and that's appropriately timed if we think about this fall equinox time, because in the early traditions, and this is again before Christianity came in and created a calendar and everything, they ended up actually adopting a lot of the if you want to call them pagan, I suppose that's how they were known. They adopted some of the pagan traditions that the people were already celebrating, because those were so ingrained in like what's known as the wheel of the year, because people really lived more with the seasons and with the moon too. That's my kitty Annabelle in the background. And actually, she's playing with something. She got up on my desk and stole a little thing that she's playing with, because I saw it and I said, how did she get that? And then I went in the office and I saw she got up there and got it with her little teeth. So anyway, she's having some fun. That's my kitty, who wants to be famous, so she always makes herself known in the videos. Nice job, Annabelle. So I was watching a video recently from a spiritual leader who was talking about how we don't really always know what's happening with the moon, right? I mean, some people do. There's apps, I'm sure, there's calendars that you can have. But I think if you ask the average person, his point was that if he said, what's the moon doing right now, people would probably just have to Google it, right? They wouldn't know in their head. But if you think back really, really far, when this is mostly when a lot of people's lives revolved around farming, the whole work week was not like a Monday through Friday thing and the weekend. Everything was based around the moon. And he was sharing, I didn't really know this, but he was sharing that there were certain days that they didn't plant on. There were certain days, like around the new moon, they would take the day before and after off, so they had like a 3-day holiday. So it was much more based on what was happening in nature, right? And we've gotten so far from that now. We're so on this calendar with, especially in the United States, with like certain holidays, and it's just really gotten out of control. We've really forgotten how to live with the seasons. We talked about eating with the seasons, right, when we were talking about food. But I just wanted to bring forth some things that I found. I'm not an expert in any way, but just like when I was looking up the things about Easter and Ostara and the egg and things like that, I just gathered some information about what's called Mabon. That is one of the I think there's 8 pagan festivals like that make up the wheel of the year. So that is the fall equinox that we're going to have on September 22nd, so just in a couple of days also. So we talked about the equinox earlier in the year as far as being the time when the the time of night and day is equal, right? And now that I'm thinking of it, I think I did a video before even that Easter one where I talked about the equinox. Anyway, you can look back at my videos. But so this was basically like a Thanksgiving. And again, this is before the Pilgrims and the traditional Thanksgiving that's now a little bit later. But it makes sense that it would be a Thanksgiving time because this is the harvest, right? Even my birds, you know, I love my birds, and there's plenty of food for them right now. There's so many natural sources, so they're just not as much at the feeders right now because it's a harvest time. So this is the time to celebrate the bounty, and it's time to give thanks for the abundance. And you know how we talked about the Jewish tradition of the new year and really reflecting on some important questions like what has the past year been like? What has the new year been like? What are the most important things to me and things like that? Same idea with this. It's recognizing your successes and letting go of the things that did not serve you in the past 12 months. And so it's also, I didn't say this, you know how I said it was called Mabon. That is named after an ancient Welsh hero named Mabon. It means the son of mother. And it's the second of 3 harvest festivals that take place. So there are various harvests, right? So there might be like the harvesting of the corn, the harvesting of apples, you know, they all happen at different times. And some of the symbols of the holiday, these make sense, and we might think of these more as our later Thanksgiving sort of things, like the cornucopia, right? The horn of plenty. And I think this is pretty obvious. The colors are orange, red, yellow, brown, copper, dark yellow, and dark green. I actually am getting ready to put out my fall leaf table runner on my counter. And the herbs that are associated are yarrow, rosemary, sage, mugwort, and rose hips. Foods, this makes sense. Corn, beans, squash, apples, pumpkins, cider, which I also have my apple cider here. Root vegetables, pomegranate, and wine. And then sunflowers. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get some sunflowers. So the flowers are sunflowers, thistle, and marigolds. And the animals associated are the owl, the stag, blackbird, and salmon. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So what I kept coming across whenever I was looking up the word Mabon or Autumn Equinox, like how to celebrate it, most often the things that are talked about are like decorating your home. Of course, the giving thanks thing as well. If you can have a bonfire, that would be a great time. And writing down your blessings for the past year in your journal, going apple picking, having a picnic, cleaning your house and get rid of any sort of old stagnant energy. We talked about feng shui earlier in the year, right? And so this could be a time to purge. And then if you could do this safely in COVID times, hosting a potluck, you know, and with your favorite people. Just want to see if there's anything else to say. I think I got distracted by Annabelle when I was talking about the moon. Just to say that I'd like to pay more attention. I do tend to know when there's a full moon. I mean, a lot of times you're driving and you see it, but you might hear, and you know the saying that things get a little bit wacky right around the full moon. They're actually starting to come out with scientific research that shows that people's sleep is affected by the moon. So if that is the case with the full moon, then wouldn't it make sense that it's also affected during the other times? I mean, I don't know a lot about the planets and astrology. I like, you know, just for fun, kind of looking into things. But it's interesting to think that we could be affected by spinning disk that's spinning around our spinning disk. There's a lot of really amazing things in our universe, right? So as far as the equinox with the day and the night being equal, it's another perfect balance on the journey through this wheel of the year, right? I'm just this thing that I printed off said we're gonna party again because it's the second harvest, right? There was the fruit harvest, and then there's the great feast of Thanksgiving. And so this is the Thanksgiving. It's an early Thanksgiving, and it's different than the American November Thanksgiving. It's a celebration of a time of rest also after the harvest. So in times when people were laboring over the harvest, the things to be harvested, this is now like a time where they can have a breather, right? In terms of life path, it's a moment for reaping what you have sown. Isn't that neat? So that's just like our harvest. Like, have you reaped what you've sown? Time to take stock. Time to look at the hopes and aspirations that you've made and reflect on how they've manifested. I told you guys that at the spring equinox, I write a little intention letter, and then I plant it under some flowers, and I water them all year, and I water them all spring and summer and think about that intention. I haven't actually done anything like that for the fall. I wonder if I could come up with another way. Like, if you watched my videos from the beginning of the year, that I have a little time capsule that I do at the very beginning of the year. It's like, and then I stow that letter away and don't touch it, and then I look at it on New Year's Eve. So these are all just little like rituals, I guess, if you will, that I do throughout the year. So I'll have to think of a way that I can, I can easily write a letter, but I'm trying to think of a way that would be sort of creative. Maybe if I had a bonfire or something, I could burn it in there and just like let it go up to the heavens. I was thinking about if you carved a pumpkin and then you like lit a candle and burned it in there. I don't know. I'll have to think about that one though. Maybe you'd like to do something like that too. It's a time to complete projects also, to clear out and let go of what is no longer wanted and needed as you prepare for descent, so that the winter can offer time for reflection and peace. And it's the time to plant seeds of new ideas and hopes which will lie dormant but nourished in the dark until the return of spring. Because that's another thing. This is the time of year that you'd be planting bulbs, right? That would just lay dormant over the winter. I'm sorry about the distraction. It's actually cute. It's a little heart-shaped paper clip that she stole, so that's what she's playing with. Are you gonna be a star? She must have seen something outside. All right, we talked about the symbols. Of course, the apple, right? We talked about apples too. I'm gonna take a drink of my cider. It's the apple is the symbol of the fruit harvest. The apple signifies in many the apple figures significantly in many sacred traditions. It's a symbol of life and immortality for healing, renewal, regeneration, and wholeness. Did you know that? I didn't know that. It's associated with beauty, long life, and restored youth. Cut an apple widthwise and it reveals a pentagram. I did know that. It has the little star in there where the seeds are. It is the much loved symbol of the pagan tradition, right? The 5 points represent the elements of earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. And thus also the directions of east, south, west, north, and within. I haven't heard that before. Obviously, we've heard north, south, east, west. So east, south, west, north, and within. The circle around the pentagram represents the eternal circle and cycle of life and of wholeness. In ritual and ceremony, the pentacle corresponds to the element of the earth. It is believed to be a protection against evil for both the person and the home. It's interesting because that symbol has become so villainized, right? And, you know, there's a lot of fear around it, I think. But it really has a neat origin to it, right? Makes you think about it in a different way. Oh, also, so I mentioned I've got my little leaf runner that I'm going to put out, you know, and decorating could be a way to celebrate the equinox. You could make a little altar as well, you know, so you could gather things like these. There's some things here: pears, apples, blackberries, hawthorn berries, elderberries, and I'm thinking you could put sunflowers on it too, and you could have like little gourds and things. Like, I love decorating for the fall. You can also make an outdoor shrine for the nature spirits to thank them for the bounty that they help to provide. Leave one of each flower, fruit, and vegetable that you have as a gift. That's kind of like, remember when we had the fairy tea party back in June and we talked about how the fairies like the little gifts that you can leave them? So you could think about that outdoor shrine as well. Also, go for a walk and collect as much of nature's wild abundance as you can while respecting the need to leave enough for everyone else, including the nature spirits. You will find rose hips, elderberries, blackberries, hawthorn berries, and more. Remember, the fruit is the carrier of the precious seed. That's true. Seeds are pretty amazing because it just continues the circle of life, right? Yep, and we talked about clearing out and also planting bulbs is the good time. I think that's all of the things that I plan to tell you. I just wanted to slip this one in. We're not going to stop our discussion of the book. In fact, the next video will be a continuation of what we've been talking about in terms of answering the call, and we're going to be getting into what it means to be successful and giving ourselves credit for that success and stuff. So there'll be a lot more topics to discuss. So this was just a little fun one, a seasonal one, because with Sarah's principles, we're trying to bring a little bit more joy and delight into our lives, right? So what brings more delight than to celebrate the changing of the seasons, right? I didn't even mention food, but there's so many things that you could make. There's recipes online for biscuits and, of course, like pumpkin, apple, anything, right? This is the time to do it. So I hope you'll give some thought to how you can maybe, first of all, take a walk under that huntress moon. And secondly, how you can honor the turning of the wheel. I know some of you guys shared it's not your favorite season because it's it's like it tells you that winter's coming next. But whatever you can do to really honor it and give thanks. Like, I like the idea of giving thanks for the harvest and seeing if you've really reaped what you've sown during this year. So again, another opportunity to reevaluate, like we talked about in the entry about the Jewish New Year. There's so many observances throughout the year that are not on our typical American calendar, right? So just something fun to sprinkle in a little bit of magic, right? I hope you do something, and I hope you're having a great day. Enjoy the weekend, and happy fall a little bit early. And I will probably see you right around that time for the next video. Love to you all. Bye-bye.